I just want to start by saying how grateful I am to be in this room with you all. There's a lot of people here, and as I reflect on the collection of talent that is gathered here, I just feel very lucky to be a part of it, so thank you so much for having me. My name's Kurt. I am from Dropbox, and I am a design director. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we have created the conditions of great design. But before I get into any of that, just a little bit about my personal story, how I got to where I am now. I've taken a bit of a roundabout path, slightly unconventional. In college, I got a degree in industrial engineering, not to be confused with industrial design. My first job out of school was as a flight test engineer for the Air Force, so couldn't be doing something more different than what I'm doing now. But this is the aircraft I worked on. It is the B-52 bomber. My responsibility was to test and maintain new technology on this very old aircraft. And I think while it sounds cool, sounds like a cool job, for me, it was just that. It was just a job. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. But one thing was especially clear to me. I did not wake up in the morning excited to go to work. And a big fear that I had at the time was, coming to the end of my career when I'm 60 years old, looking back on my life and realizing I had not spent time on something I was passionate about or truly cared about. And, work is such a huge, huge part of your life. I was not okay with this kind of status quo of trading away 1/3 of your life to work, 1/3 of your life to sleep, and then the small other 1/3 that happens on nights and weekends is the life that you enjoy living. I was like, that's bullshit. I am not subscribing to that philosophy. So that was like a good indication that it was time for a change, and I was like, now what? I felt quite lost. And I looked at the tech industry as something that was really fascinating, exciting from the outside looking in, and I just saw that it was rapidly changing and having a huge impact on the world. And I was like, I'm going to go be part of that, whatever that means. So I do consider myself a late bloomer, but fast learner in design. The first time I opened up a design tool, I was 23 years old, Photoshop, and I had to do it because I had to build something from nothing. I had no marketable skills. I was like, all right, I'm just going to brute force this and try and do the startup thing, I guess. So I quit my job very naively without much of a plan, and over the course of the next 2 years, it was a pretty wild journey. This is a photo of me in the back of a car. Part of my journey, I won't go into super detail here, this could be a whole talk in itself, but when I first moved to San Francisco, I could only afford to do it by living out of my car. My total expenses were about $250 a month. So Inc. magazine wrote a nice article about it, but it was just part of my journey to kind of break into tech. And what I found through this experience, I continued to build and ship a lot of stuff with the aspiration that I would still build a company. I found that I was not actually passionate about being an entrepreneur. I was passionate about design, and I was looking for a way to block out all the other noise that comes with trying to be an entrepreneur. So found a way to hustle my feet into a design agency down South Bay. It's called Zerb. It was kind of like design wonderland. We used design to solve a ton of different problems. My friend was then starting a company called Ship. Sorry, Matthias, we dropped the vowel as well. Yeah. It was a roller coaster. I joined when there was 10 people. I helped grow the design team, and we grew in total to 250 people in just 2 years. And that pretty much brings me to today, where I work at Dropbox. I've been at Dropbox for about 2 years. And the reason why I wanted to just share that quick story was that there's not one right way to go about being a designer, breaking design. I think often people say first I need to go to design school, or I need to work at company A, B, and C, and then I'll be successful. So anyways, that was just my path. I just wanted to kind of give you a quick snapshot of that. So now we can actually talk about the real stuff. I lead a design team that works on a product called Dropbox Paper. How many of you have heard of Paper? Okay, how many of you use Paper? Okay, we're doing all right then. Still got some work to do. But for those of you that might not be familiar, Paper is a collaborative workspace that helps teams create and share ideas. We released the product a little over a year ago, and when we came out of beta, we made a short video to help tell the product story. Do we have sound? Just imagine some crazy, amazing voiceover right now. It's happening. All right, let's do it. We made a short video to tell the product story.
It's about people working together in a more human and connected way, because that's how people grow the best ideas. That's Paper from Dropbox. It's just what's needed to keep everything moving. Everyone adding and creating together from wherever they are. It's staying connected and keeping each other going. With comments that feel like conversations, or fist bumps, or whatever that one is. So that an idea can inspire an image that sparks a look and feel, and even more ideas about music and motion and color that all make an idea into an even better version of itself. That's why we made Paper, because when people work together in a more human and connected way, they grow better ideas. That's Paper from Dropbox.
This is a piece of paper. And we really do use physical paper as continued inspiration for the product. The pitch to Drew Houston, our CEO, was all about taking inspiration from the physical page, but making it digital. Physical paper can be incredibly flexible. It is disposable or permanent, formal or informal. You can use it for writing, collaging, drawing, painting. It's flexible enough to take on ideas of all kinds, and we want our paper, Dropbox Paper, to be equally flexible and inspiring. So while we have designed Paper to be this incredibly flexible workspace, we have noticed a few trends in how it's used. Our biggest advocates are creatives. They're designers, musicians, artists. Steve Aoki, who's a musician, used Paper to create his newest album, Colony. Fashion designer Dion Lee and his team use Paper when creating new fashion collections. And John Berenicia, he's a filmmaker and producer. He uses Paper to plan the Sundance Film Festival, as well as a place to imagine new films of his own. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what Paper is, so you have an understanding as I use it to illustrate a few points throughout. So let's get into it. Let's talk about how we on the Paper team have created the conditions for great design. Really, I'm going to focus on three primary themes, the first of which is to build a team that cares. This is the Paper design team, minus a few folks. We've grown a little bit. It is made up of product designers, design researchers, and UX writers. However, the whole Paper team looks something more like this. There's about 80 of us in total across engineering, product management, marketing, analytics. And one thing that has felt very special about the team of people that we have assembled is the depth of care that we have for Paper. So build a team that cares, but one thing I want to be especially clear about is I am not saying build a team that cares about design. That, to me, is arrogant and unfair to ask of your team. You, as a designer, are not entitled to have everyone care about design. Instead, what I'm suggesting is that you care about the product. The product is objectively what matters. It's the thing that is built and is what ships. It's the thing that people use and find value in. And ultimately, it's the thing that great design is affecting. So this might sound quite obvious and maybe trivial, of course, care about the product. But the type of care that I am talking about is like real, genuine, authentic care, the kind that is heartfelt and deep. And I actually think that's quite rare to find across an entire team. So how have we done it on the paper team? I really think that it can be distilled down to one kind of like thing that we have really invested a lot into, and that's to create a sense of ownership across the team. When you feel personally connected to what you build, you tend to care more about it. So how have we done that? A few very tactical things. The first is called Hacky Hour. It happens twice a sprint, which is once every 3 weeks. We gather together in a room and we build whatever we want. Anyone who has an idea can grab an engineer and build it. So it really speaks to the culture of having ideas come from the bottom up, and when you're contributing your own ideas into the product, directly into the product, it gives you this sense of ownership over it. To build on that point, we tend to encourage lots and lots of experimentation. So for experiments that are larger in scope, we allow anyone to build and ship to a small team of people that we call the composer team. It's made up of about 150 people who work at Dropbox. But it's a way to build something real and ship it. So this is a screenshot of our experiment panel inside of Paper. There's where the composer team lives. I'm part of the composer team. I can come in here and toggle on and off any experiment. I blurred the experiments because they might just blow your mind. But it is real. It is a real thing that we do. Cool. Another way that we have built on the design team a strong sense of ownership outside of design is we practice what is called participatory design, meaning we pull other disciplines into our design process. This is a photo that was taken a few weeks ago. We're in the process of rethinking our onboarding into Paper, and we got together with engineers, PMs, researchers, writers, and we had a generative brainstorming session. What you see on the wall is our existing flow. We called it our subway because we mapped out the user flow with Yarn, the paths that they could take. But what this allowed us to do was to get the entire team bought in super early. This is before we ever touched a design tool, and contributing to the direction that we take things. Finally, I've noticed that when your work matters to the company you work for, you tend to care more. So Paper has been a top company goal at Dropbox for the last 2 years, in 2017 and now this year. And I think when you're up against a very aspirational goal for the company, it tends to bond the team together and create this collective sense of ownership. So there goes the rocket. Cool. So build a team that cares, check. The next theme is around being opinionated. Be opinionated with your designs. This is Microsoft Word. It is the godfather of the word processor. Its design has informed almost every text editor that would come after it, and the first version was built a little over 30 years ago. And Word was fundamentally designed for the printed page. There is literally a piece of paper inside of the interface. And this is Word from today. What you saw just the screen before was a screenshot from 10 years ago. And it's held true to this design. Very, very little has changed about the approach to the design of Word. But over the course of 30 years, the way that people have worked has dramatically changed. And even tools that were built for online use and intended to be collaborative are sticking to this design of the past. This is just my moment to throw a little shade at our friends at Google. So what did we start with on Paper? we started with truly a blank canvas. We wanted to think from first principles around what a tool would look like built for modern-day collaboration. And what we designed doesn't actually look a whole lot different than that blank canvas. On the surface, it's very simple. But it is able to unfold around you as you work into almost endless possibilities. This is a strong opinion we hold on the paper design team. We believe that your tools should mold around you personally, rather than you needing to mold around your tools. So, be opinionated. We have a strong opinion, but put a bunch of opinionated people together in a room and ask them to make decisions, and things become quite difficult. So, in order to help with that, we, of course, created design principles. I was here yesterday, and I caught a few talks, and I think every single presenter had the word principle in their presentation. So this is nothing new, but I feel like teams often write principles, stick them on a shelf, say we did it, and let them gather dust. So what I want to share with you is how we have specifically put our principles into practice, because the hard part is actually living your principles. So our first principle is confidence through clarity. We believe that people do their best work when they're confident, and confidence comes when things are clear to you. So here's how we have designed for clarity in the product. The first thing that you'll see is our editor attribution. You can clearly see who has contributed to each piece of a doc. Another example of designing for clarity is our annotations feature. So if you drop in an image, we allow you to annotate a specific part of it. If you've ever tried to give design feedback over email or written text, it's quite difficult, so this allows you to be specific and actionable in your feedback. Principle number 2, flow through focus. We believe that your best creative thinking happens when you're focused. It almost allows you to enter a state of flow. Someone yesterday, I forget who, was talking about this state of flow. And it is something that we designed for. So again, on the surface, very, very simple. You won't see any overly exposed formatting menus or features, really. But the way that we have approached this is that we give you the things you need in the moment you need them. So a couple examples. Our formatting menu only appears when you highlight text, indicating you want to interact with it. And better yet, we support Markdown, so you don't need a formatting menu at all. You never need to leave the keyboard. Similarly, with our table of contents, as you're composing and building a doc, we are automatically inserting these tick marks along the left edge. Upon hover, we expose the table of contents, allowing you to navigate to a different part of the doc. But by default, we're getting out of your way. We took another approach when you copy and paste links into the canvas. We can often recognize that there's a piece of content associated with that link, and we automatically expand it and allow you to interact with that content inside of the doc. So here you dropped in a YouTube link, you can play the video. Similar, you have a Pinterest board, you just paste the Pinterest link in. SoundCloud, Envision, so you can put an Envision prototype in and actually click the prototype without ever leaving the paper canvas. And we do the same thing with Framer. Last thing for designing for focus, this is one of my favorite features from a standpoint of cleverness. We allow you to turn your doc into a presentable artifact in a single click of the button. So here's a quick demonstration of that. So click Present, and we open a new tab. We even, if you want to be provocative, we let you go into dark mode, scary. But essentially what this gives you is slides. We increase the size of the content, we remove the user interface, really creating that focused experience for you to tell your story. All right, principle number 3, creativity through play. We believe people are people, regardless if they're at work or not. And people like to have fun. I don't think you need to be this stark, cold, rigid version of what people often identify as professional. So here's a few ways that we have allowed people to be their most creative selves through play. The first kind of simple thing is we have integrated animated stickers into our comments. It allows you to express and emote as you would in real life. And we really do love our stickers. This is our paper wizard. He has become almost like a mascot for the team because he embodies so much of the character that we strive to have in the product. Every time you start a new doc, we write a little clever message just for you. Couple examples: give me a name, now write something brilliant. The trees thank you for creating this doc. You are a shining star, you are a tiny masterpiece. Everyone loves emoji, so do we. And an example of how we have taken this into like a playful form is whenever you insert emoji into the document title, we also insert it into the browser tab. So there is some utility. It helps with wayfinding if you have a ton of tabs open, or you could just do stupid shit like have a zoo in your browser. I don't know. Cool. We also have a handful of Easter eggs hidden throughout the product. There's actually quite a lot. If you remember the old school Nokia cell phones, or like the brick phones, it was my first cell phone. It came default with one game, I think. It was Snake. So we have recreated our emoji snake inside of Paper. Buy me a beer sometime and I'll tell you how to find it. Otherwise, you can click around randomly until something happens. I don't know. Secrets. Cool. Fourth and final principle of our team and how we have acted on them is teamwork through trust. We believe the best teams operate with inherent trust with one another. And a couple examples of that is our shared to-do feature. So at any point in time, you can ask a teammate to do a task for you, and your teammates can do the same to you. Additionally, when you go to share a doc, we default to edit permissions. We think that the best teams are co-creating together. So that's it. Be opinionated. That's kind of like how we have acted on our opinion and ensured that the opinion was coming from the collective team, not just like one-off opinions. The third kind of theme, and this one will be shorter, but it's to put people at the center. This is probably not something new, like talk to users. I say people, I think users is a little like dehumanizing. There's just like people using the product. They're not users. I don't know. But talk to people all the time, and we really do this on Paper. A lot of times it's like a kind of like a mantra, but people don't often do it. A couple examples. We're very lucky to have a supremely talented design research team on Paper. So we do traditional kind of like more formal research studies. As an example, this is us going on site and getting a deeper understanding of a team's creative workflow. We took a participatory approach with this as well, where the people were demonstrating how they work with their team throughout a given day. In this study, the people, or the animals, you can see like the elephant represented the person's teammates, and the modes of transportation, so the school bus and the bulldozer, were the tools that they were using. In a much more casual way, we also do weekly customer chats. So anyone on the team is empowered to schedule a chat. They just reach out to a customer and say, hey, we'd love to talk to you for like an hour. A lot of times we do this over video conference, but it allows us to simply have conversations and keep our customers or people at the top of our mind. So we're not like designing for ourselves. We do sometimes go on site. This was in Australia, and we went into a design agency. They're called Present Company, and they showed us their docs that they have been creating. They're beautiful. It was very inspiring. But it's also a good opportunity for our people to tell us why the product sucks and what they need and where it's kind of like where we're dropping the ball. The third thing that we do that feels pretty unique to our team is something we call Real World Wednesdays. This happens bi-weekly. We bring in about 5 to 10 participants to test super, super early concepts. Sometimes it's literally like we print off 2 mock-ups and like put them in front of people and just have a conversation about it. The way we have designed this session is, in this case, there was 5 participants. It's done speed dating style, so they're very, very rapid kind of like concept tests. We do 15 minutes, and then the participant stands up and goes to another station to test another concept. That's all I have to share with you today. This is how we have created the conditions for great design on the paper team. And just to recap and summarize, build a team that deeply cares about the product, have a very strong opinion about your approach to design, and put people at the center of what you do. I am super bummed that I cannot come to the after party. I would love to chat with you more, but you can reach me online at Twitter. It's at Kurt Varner. Thank you so much for having me.